All right, so I think we are live now with the bell curve talking about prospects, and I guess we had a pretty big trade recently with the Jose Quintana trade, and so what are your thoughts on that one?
Um, I mean, I thought it was a good trade for both sides.
Mhm.
Saying that they thought the Cubs overpaid for Quintana, but I think Quintana is a really good young pitcher. He's pitched 200 plus innings for 4 straight years, and he's cheap as hell. So I think it's a good trade. I mean, Eloy's a great prospect, and Cease has a good ceiling. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. I really like Cease. He can throw pretty hard, and Eloy's got great potential. Kind of curious that they picked at this point. They basically picked Schwarber over Torres and Eloy, so it should be interesting to see how the Cubs go from there. But and then they threw in some other prospects that could be interesting, but they're kind of flyers at this point, so we'll see what happens with them.
I don't even think I know. I didn't even pay attention to those two guys.
Yeah, I didn't really either. I think they're more back end of like their top 30, so I don't know if they could become just quad A players that provide depth for them and could play off the bench. On is
Yeah,
definitely worth two top prospects, and I think he could bounce back with the Cubs. So we'll see how that happens and how that works with them.
I think it was a good trade. It needed to happen. I mean, I think I might have brought his price up a little bit, and pulling the trigger now, they get another 3 starts out of him or so. So
Yeah, and he's proven to be a quality pitcher, and I think that he could really just improve, focusing on not having to be traded and just go out there with a much better defense and probably a much better catcher. So that should help him a lot as well.
what do you think Cease's chance are of? Because I'm pretty torn on it. Delivery, although he's got a really good curveball, but I'm not 100% sold that he's gonna start
I
for
think he's
them.
oh, I think he's a lot like the other prospects for the White Sox as far as their pitching goes, and because a lot of them I could see ending up being relievers. Like Kopech could be a top of the line closer, but then Birdie just went down with Tommy John, I think, or I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, heard it was a UCL tear.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, similar to what's his name just had.
Yeah,
He's got a
so
few there.
and I think if any team's gonna stick with him as a starter, the White Sox are gonna try it as long as they can. So
I'm with you. I think they got a whole bunch of guys that could be relievers, but they're playing for so far in the future that they're going to give guys ample. Oh,
yeah, they could have a really high ceiling rotation or one of the greatest bullpens we've ever seen.
yeah,
All right, so you want to start talking about Acuna now? 19-year-old in AAA, that's crazy.
kind of came out of promotion to AAA.
Yeah, I mean I I think it's super aggressive. I think they're pretty aggressive with him from the start. I'm surprised he didn't just spend a lot of time in extended spring training and seeing where he got on from there. But up prospect rankings, he could be the top prospect when all is said and done when Moncada finally gets called up, if that ever happens this season. As much
Yeah,
upside as almost anyone. I think Vlad Guerrero is probably the only one that I see right now with more upside, and that's because Vlad Guerrero is just approach. I don't think Vlad will be stealing in the future, but I think he has the power to just be a massive asset going forward. And I think Acuna, I I haven't seen much of him playing defense, so I don't know how he will handle like if he's a corner or if he's a center fielder. So his bat should be electric when he gets called up, if that's this season or next season.
yeah. I think from what I've read, he plays center field. Kind of a he's got quite an arm too. He made a play in the futures game on a Brendan I think it was Brendan Rodgers sack fly and nice throw to the plate that shouldn't have been close, but he fired it in there. So he's definitely got a nice arm. His reads on the outfield aren't great, but I, I think the approach you mentioned with Vlad Guerrero, and I think that's kind of the reason I was surprised about the promotion for Acuna because you wouldn't know by looking at the triple slash, but he's still pretty aggressive. He tends to not be so selective with what he hits, and I don't know. I think they should have kept him down Double A, but I think at this point, I think it's the real only reason I can think of.
Yeah, it's kind of curious to have a 19-year-old fly up so quickly. If he was like 20, 21, I could maybe understand.
Yeah.
Unless they're trying to like use him in a big piece, like to maybe get to do an Archer trade, just to get him up as quick as possible while he's on a hot streak, just to show, hey, he's pretty close to the majors. You guys should really trade for him right now.
Yeah,
That
and
was
I've
their
seen a lot
game
of
plan.
Andrew Jones comparisons to him as well. Because Andrew Jones I think he made his debut at 19, so there's them.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with him if they do keep him where he's at. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if he did struggle. I know recently he had a good game. I think he went 2 for 5. So, but he,
Yeah,
it's just so crazy that a 19-year-old is playing in AAA.
yeah, I agree. It's weird. It doesn't happen very often, but I mean, either really really special in him, or there's some
Yeah,
play.
because like someone like Vlad Guerrero, Vlad could have been promoted much earlier than he has been now, and Vlad's only 18. He's a year younger than him, and I think Vlad has a better plate approach than him right now. So it's interesting to see the two totally different ways of doing it. The Braves flying him up, and Toronto's just allowing Vlad just to take his time, dominate at a level. I think he's going to do really well at Double A or High A. Sorry, wait, I forget. Is he at Double A or High A?
He and Bichette just went to high.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I mean, Bichette's hitting better than Vlad right now, but I think
I
Vlad's
know,
got
yeah,
the much higher ceiling right now.
yeah.
That could be crazy in Toronto. They could rule the AL East for a long time with just those two and their other prospects. Because recently I helped you with your prospect thing, and they had a nice center fielder playing. Why is the name escaping me? He's a little old. He's older than them, but he's performing pretty well, nice right now. So he's like their 15th prospect. So they should have an interesting team in the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. So now, do you want to talk about some of our discrepancies that because we did produce a top 100 list, and we definitely had some differing opinions on a few guys.
Sure, yeah. Be in article form on the site at some point.
What's up? This
This podcast, yeah.
like, yeah, we can put a link when we're all said and done because we're live right now.
Okay. Yeah, right. Okay, so we'll throw a link in there.
We'll throw a link, and then when we throw a link in this with our top 100, we can probably, I mean, the only prospect really worth moving up right now is Acuna, and I don't know if that's because he's in AAA or I personally like where he's at right now. So.
Oh, I did too. I wouldn't. I mean, for me personally, I wouldn't. I don't move him up because of the promotion or anything.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll throw a link in the article with this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great.
The name that really pops off the page as a big discrepancy for us is Ahmed Rosario, shortstop of the Mets.
Yeah, so
I had him around 15.
Yeah, I had him at 3. I mostly went upside with my list. Sorry, I'm looking at the script right here. Because he does have I still think he is I think he's a nice bit of upside. I still think he's a 2020 player if he unlocks some power because he's got the speed, and I like that he won't be taken out of the Mets lineup whenever they do decide to call him up. But I see where I can definitely agree with where you rank him. I just put him up there because of the proximity to the majors, and
Yeah,
that's that a lot. He's like Swanson last
yeah,
year.
yeah. And like you said, he's close. He's a shortstop. He's iffy reports actually about J.P. Crawford's defense. So with that in mind, I'd say Rosario is probably the best bet to stick at shortstop for, and I like that. You know, I think guys like Tatis Jr. could move off of shortstop as they that. But Rosario is a good bet to stick. And I like that.
Yeah, I like that he's going to stick at a premium position. He might not be the most exciting player. Obviously, he'll stick, and I think he'll be able to just do a bit of everything for your team. He'll be able to steal. I think he can hit some home runs, although he doesn't play in a very nice park for home runs, so we could see how that works. But I think he'll hit for a high average, taken out of the lineup at all. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Like you
then
said, I've got tempered expectations as far as the home run totals go. I mean, before this year, I think his high for a year was 5, and now he's at 7 this year, but he's in Las Vegas, so I don't know how many that could actually be in up
yeah,
close.
I do agree. The Vegas thing has helped him out a little bit. I don't know. I think he can if he jumps on the launch angle revolution and all that, like everyone else has. I think he can unlock some more power and could hit towards the top of the Mets lineup for the future. I think he could potentially be their leadoff hitter, and because Conforto sometimes leads off for them, so I think he could move Conforto to 2, so Conforto can drive him home. So that could be a nice combo to have in fantasy for sure.
Yeah, no, I can see where the 3 ranking comes in.
Yeah, I can also see where the
I
15
think
comes from.
yeah, I think we I think we balance each other out pretty well.
Yeah. So, and then we're gonna segue over to Clint Frazier, right?
Uh, I had him a lot lower than you, I believe.
Yeah, I think I'm struck. Let me just pull up. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I personally had Clint Frazier. I had him in a big cluster of like I consider if I was to like name the tier that he was with, I'd call them like 5 category upside outfielders, and
Mm-hmm.
like I had him at 13. So I think let me see where you had him, Clint Frazier.
37. So we've got like a
37.
20 plus gap there.
Yeah, I mean, if I was doing tiers, he would stay in like what I consider the 5 category upside because it really is, I think, a bit of a drop off after like in my list I had like um so I didn't allow the Torres injury to really affect. I think he's a second baseman going long term, but to talk about Frazier scares me is he's got nice bat speed, but I think that he could struggle for average, and I think he could potentially lose. He could stop stealing at some point. So I can see why there's a 30 why you put a 37 ranking on him as well. But I think that for when he comes up, he'll be a 5 category guy with some pretty iffy average, but I think he could go on massive hitting streaks, especially with the I think he'll definitely play up with the Yankees when he gets consistent playing time.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. For me, I just you're not supposed to scout the stat line and stuff, but for me, the highest he's been is 15-15. He's a 270 hitter in the minors, an 800 OPS guy in the minors. I don't know. I know what you're saying about the bat speed. The bat speed's crazy fast. Like sometimes you can't even see the bat when he swings. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how the stolen base is going to translate. Um, he's stolen
Yeah,
42
I can
bases
see
in his
that.
minors, but he's also got caught 21. That's pretty good, I guess. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I had him down on the list.
I just think that I think for a while he'll be a steals asset. It'll compare him to Judge right now because Judge is on a massive pace. But I think he could be like Judge, where he hits a lot of home runs and just sneaks in a few steals here and there, and that could definitely be. It's better to have some steals than none, especially for fantasy.
Yeah, which, if I may, is not a bad it's not a bad segue into Luis Robert, who we were also
I'm really aggressive on Robert, and I'm kind of he reminds me of someone. I hear a lot of comps to Moncada and outfield Moncada because he does strike. He could have massive strikeout issues going forward, but I think that if he hits for a really low average, he'll have a lot of power, and he is pretty young, so I think he still has some time to iron out everything. And he does have the pedigree because he has that massive signing bonus to start with. 5 category guy as well, but I think he's another one of those that the average could pretty much hurt him for a little bit, and then once he gets clicking, he could be a fantasy star for you.
yeah, I think the you had him at 16, right? I had him at 44. Don't think the 16 is probably aggressive, but I don't think it's the worst ranking. I think in so in Cuban Showcase he ran a 6.2 60-yard dash, which I saw a bunch of people on Twitter say that would be categorized as 80 grade speed. And so that kind of got me excited for Robert. There's a lot more to go into base stealing than pure speed. So I don't know how it's. We'll see how many bases he steals.
Yeah,
But I think with the lack of stolen bases in fantasy right now, I think that he's a good bet to steal you a bunch if he can develop well and become a starter at any point.
yeah, I think he's a little while off because I think the White Sox that they're known to be a little bit aggressive, but I think they'll take their time with him. Just he needs to iron out some of his strikeout issues, but I don't know. I see massive fantasy upside, and he is really really fast. And while that speed is still there, I think he'll be when he gets called up. I think in a year or two. I think I think if they play it right, but they could have him come up pretty quickly. I don't think he'll have an Acuna type rise. I think he'll because he's now playing in the Dominican Summer League, so that's not where I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be more in like low A aggressive assignment, but we'll see how he goes from there. I think.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it before. I think the transition from like really anywhere outside the U.S., especially Cuba, to the U.S. can be like young guys. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that he didn't get put somewhere where he might be challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, you know, being in the Dominican Summer League isn't great for an assessment standpoint.
Yeah, it's not one of the better places. I think you could see him in like the Arizona Fall League this year, just to give him give him a little bit more competition. So I wouldn't be surprised if the White Sox did that.
Yeah,
And yeah, I do agree that it does take a while, especially transitioning from Cuba to the United States. It's got to be pretty alarming for a lot of these guys.
yeah, I would imagine.
All right, so you want to transition over to Alex Verdugo?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't think Alex Verdugo is going to be a Dodger after the deadline. There's already
I don't
asked
think
about him
so
from
either.
Brad Hand, which obviously I like Verdugo a lot from prospect standpoint. I just don't know. I believe I had him a ton lower than you.
Yeah, let me see where I can pull him up. I had him pretty aggressively ranked, and I was actually factoring. I probably shouldn't, but I had factored in that he could be with another team, and that team could give him a chance.
Yeah,
Alex Verdugo at 34, and that probably was a little bit aggressive. And I think he will be their main trade chip to get a reliever because they are trying to go after another left-handed reliever, whether that's Zach Britton, um, Justin Wilson. I'm trying to think of all the left-handed relievers on the market, but
I think Hand is
I
the
think he could be the
closest.
key. Too. So yeah, I think they'll wave him around to a lot of teams and see. what the best reliever they think they can get for him, because they do have a pretty stacked farm system, and they are really good at developing, especially hitters. Like we've seen Bellinger come up and be amazing. Corey Seager was great. They just had the track record. Puig was good when he first came up. Puig is kind of having a little bit of a bounce back this year. And he needs to fix some things, but that's up to him, I guess. So, Verdugo, I think he does have some nice speed, and I don't know if he's going to be a massive home run hitter to start with. I think he could develop some massive power, and he's playing. I think he's playing in the Pacific Coast League right now, the AAA Oklahoma City, if I remember correctly. But I think he will be. I don't think he'll be wearing any Dodgers affiliate gear after the deadline. So
Yeah,
I think that could really help him.
Yeah, I don't think he will either. I think Owner good bets to not be with the club.
Yeah,
Post trade deadline.
Yeah, because I think they're going to be chasing a reliever. I don't really see anywhere in their infield that needs upgrading, because they can just keep Bellinger at first and then go from there. But
I think with Bird,
I do like.
he's got a great hit tool, but like you said, I don't know if there's ever going to be any power. Size.
Yeah, I think he'll be a gap to gap hitter, so not as exciting in fantasy.
Yeah, he's thick. He's like 200 pounds, but only 6 feet. But he does have like a pretty flat swing, and so I don't know how much loft he's gonna get. Well, I think I had him in the 70s somewhere.
Yeah, I think there was a few players that you had some pretty big discrepancies, and that's actually what we're talking about right now. But yeah, I think I just lost him. He was right by Kyle Wright. So yeah, you had him much lower than I did, and I think there was a few guys that I was a little too aggressive on, and he was probably one of them. Him and Robert, but yeah. Do you have anything else to say about Verdugo, or do you want to transition to the next guy?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. I think if you want to buy into the fact that he very well could be another out later this year, that's not ridiculous to think. But and his tools are both really good, but I don't know how much be there over the course of their careers.
Yeah, I mean, he, like you said, he does have a flat swing, and I think if he wanted to make a few adjustments, he could. But I think he'll be. I said yesterday he'd be middle of the order, and I think that's wrong. With the flat swing and the lack of power, I think he could be I think he could be like 1 or 2 at high upside, and maybe be a later hitter. But I think he'll play an okay outfield, so that whatever team gets him will be definitely happy with what they get for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And then you want to transition to Ty O'Neill.
Oh man, I took Ty O'Neill. I think it's the 3rd round. We're in a league together, and it's the first year of it's a dynasty league, and so we had a player draft of all the prospects. I think I took Tyler O'Neill like in the 3rd round, and he has not had a good year. He's been hot recently, but
Yeah,
but he's had a rough year.
yeah. I mean, at the time, it was a great pick, and he did slump a little bit, and he's getting hot right now. I have him ranked at 48, and you have him at 94, so that's pretty much almost a 50 spot difference. I think that he's just having a little bit of trouble, and I think he can hot streak. He's got some nice potential. I think he's got some power in the bat. I think he's got a little bit of speed, and I don't think he's a super like someone you should bank on as a 5 category guy, but he should be able to get you a few things here and there. He should get you some steals. He should get you some power. I think he could hit for a nice enough average. I don't know if he's going to be an extreme asset in the average category.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of swing and miss to his game. One thing that kind of scared me, I saw somewhere, I think it was on Baseball Prospectus, about it was just like a video breakdown of the swing. He's got kind of a what they referred to as a bat drag. So it gets in front of his hands
Hmm.
and just makes
Hmm.
the bat path longer, harder to hit the ball. And that kind of scared me. But and that's why I haven't ranked down there so far. But that being said, he's definitely the type of guy that over the last like made significant adjustments everywhere. Like they're well documented, had to make, and I think that says a lot about him. So I might have been a little too harsh on him, but respect because he could
I don't
do a
think
lot.
you're too harsh on him. I may have seen a list or two where he wasn't even in the top 100, and he has made some. He has adjusted really well. He hasn't been playing all that well, and I think that bat drag could be a serious thing, especially as the higher up you go, you're dealing with much better pitchers. It's not like rookie ball where you're having guys who are just like learning how to throw strikes and they're drafted this past year and they're just so triple. I think he's in triple A, correct?
Yeah, AAA right now.
So he's obviously playing some nicer pitchers than other prospects. So I think if he can fix that bat drag, you could see an improvement in his game. But I still think he does have a lot of strikeout concerns. So
Yeah,
I
and
mean, but in today's
sorry, go ahead.
oh god oh so what I was saying is I think in today's game where I think a strikeout is better, weak double and creating a double play opportunity for the defense. So I don't take strikeouts as big into consideration because I think I'd rather, at just watching the game with, especially with the shifts now, I'd rather see strikeouts than ground into double plays and all that. Just as baseball, I don't think it really affects the double grounding and double play really affects a lot of fantasy leagues. So baseball, I think I'd rather see a guy strike out and get the one out instead of creating a chance for two.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I read that report at like the beginning of the year, maybe like late April, early May, and I hadn't before we did this list. So he's been hot, as we
Yeah,
noted. So he very well could have made an adjustment. I don't know. Pretty well
yeah,
right now.
I think yeah, he's doing really well right now. So you want to go to a guy that I almost left off my list? I've just lost all faith in. Where did you in our combined list? I'm trying to see where you put him. Lucas Giolito. I just I've been really concerned about what I've been watching from him. I personally had him all the way at 100. I almost
So
left him off
literally,
the list.
yeah.
Literally the last guy. I
I
don't.
had him at 6, so he landed right at number 69 for both of us.
Nice. Um, but yeah, he just the season has not gone well for him. And in one league, I actually recently just traded him. I just was trying to get any value I could, and I traded him for Nick Gordon straight up, which I don't think will be a I don't think will be a great trade going forward. But I just couldn't deal with him not performing anymore, and I was afraid that for a while this could be my best opportunity to move him before things could get even worse if he gets called up to the major leagues and gets shelled.
Oh yeah, I like that deal for you. I like Nick Gordon a lot. I think he's. Was it
I like
you who didn't think Nick Gordon was a shortstop long term?
I I don't think it was me. I think it was someone else in our dynasty group chat. But I could see him moving off of it and being a really nice second baseman. It because they obviously just drafted Royce Lewis, and I think they're going to try and have him play shortstop all the way through his minor league career. But I do like Nick Gordon as a shortstop. I think he could be an elite defensive second baseman, which doesn't really mean as much in shortstop. But Nick Gordon is just I don't see the super high sexy upside that I did when I picked up Giolito in that league.
Yeah, yeah. Giolito is interesting. I saw somewhere it was a guy on Twitter. It was a retweet. I didn't look into it as well as I should have, but he essentially had tracked Tommy John surgeries 7 8 years or something like that, and I think he had fastest to come back from Tommy John surgery that he had in all of his records, and so that kind of stuck with me. And I'm wonder if he was a little rushed back. That makes
I
sense,
wouldn't.
but it might also be me just making excuses.
No, 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 no. I think it could definitely be worth looking into because he was the centerpiece of them of the White Sox getting Adam Eaton. So they could have just been like, hey, we want to try and get this guy on our AAA team, develop chemistry with the rest of the guys who we just recently picked up. They don't have Kopech in AAA yet, last I checked, but they have is Moncada, basically what they think is the foundation of their team going forward in AAA. And I think they were just like, we know that the Nationals messed around with you a lot, and I guess they tried to change his delivery.
Yep, yep.
So I would not count out Giolito bouncing back next year. It's just this year has not been pretty for him.
Yeah, I think he's not quite back to what it was. Um,
Yeah, because when he was healthy, he was amazing to watch.
yeah, he was really good, and I don't know. I've heard about him, like the minimal things about him. So I did keep him up there, willing to give him the doubt. He's still
I,
only like 21, 22.
I heard
I
he
don't know.
got some
Oh, he's
some
actually
mentoring from
22.
James Shields. So I don't know if that's someone you really want to be getting mentoring from at this point, but
Yeah, he actually turned 23 yesterday.
wow. Yeah, he's been around for so long that I thought he was much older than that. I thought it was more 24, 25. We've been hearing about
So
Giolito for a long time.
yeah, I think it's noting or maybe even talking about that Giolito was the first pitcher we talked about. I didn't really note down a lot of big discrepancies because, like, for example, I have Michael Kopech at number 11, and you have Kopech at 32.
Mm-hmm.
But based on how you ranked pitchers, that actually wasn't the biggest discrepancy between us. You do not probably.
Yeah, as far as like the way I viewed it, if I was starting a team right now, a fantasy team, I would want to go hitter friendly, hitters early and often, because I just think your chance of hitting on a hitter right now is much higher than hitting on a pitcher. Because I want to say my highest ranked pitcher is at 21, and he just recently he this past spring training he got injured. So let me.
Yeah, you have Reyes at 21.
Sorry about that. My sister was asking about something. Um,
Yeah, you have Reyes ranked at number 21.
yeah, and I just think doing a rookie draft right now, I want to go with hitters because I think they're a much better bet. But I did go upside on my hitters, if that makes sense. Like I was aggressive on Acuna at 9, and I had him above Senzel, who has a higher floor, but I think Acuna has a higher ceiling at this point. I mean, I would have bet that Senzel was in AAA right now, not
Yeah, I don't think anyone could have predicted that Acuna would be in AAA right now. I agree with you on the
not even.
floor. I mean, being honest, a lot of these like toolsy guys with approach, I don't think Acuna has questionable approach, but like I said, he can get aggressive. Those guys are relatively low floors, and Senzel, he's got a nice low floor to him. So I think that's what.
Yeah, and Senzel's a different type of third baseman. He's not like your like Arenado is what I would consider right now the prototypical third baseman. I think Senzel will be a number 1 or number 2 hitter going forward and could get some nice steals from third base. I mean, yeah, Senzel. Um, he's an interesting player for third base. If you looked at his profile, you wouldn't expect that he was a third baseman, which is crazy.
No, he's small. He's really small.
Yeah,
He's only 6 feet.
and yeah, he's super small but he's pretty athletic, and so I think he'll definitely be a really good defensive third baseman. I think he'll stay there for a long time, and then I think if I was Cincinnati, I would be pushing him if he's able to handle it because I want to get him with Votto so Votto can teach him some things because I think Votto is probably the best guy to learn from right now. Um, I think see what Cincinnati does with him.
Yeah, I think they're obviously not any rush. He's had a good year, but it hasn't been like jump off the page at you. So
Yeah,
I think it's good that they're taking their time with him.
yeah. I mean, if you would have asked me this off season where Senza would be, I don't think Double A is a disappointment for him. I thought he would have been pushing Triple A, but that's probably more an organizational thing because Cincinnati knows they're not competing for a while. Like they're just picking up assets as much as they can. So we'll see when Senzel gets called up. But I definitely think it's crazy that Acuna is in Triple A before him.
Yeah. It's crazy that Acuna's in AAA before a lot of people.
Yeah, it's should be interesting. But yeah, go back on the pitchers. I didn't have the pitchers I do have are really high upside. Like my list, I had my highest pitcher was and then a couple spots later, Anderson Espinosa because I do like his upside. I think he recently in the past couple weeks got injured, so
Again?
yeah, oh no, the injury that he got, not like that he got earlier in the season. Let me check that really
Oh,
quickly.
yeah. I think it was
Yeah,
forearm
I
thing.
don't think he got
Yep.
injured.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean he's so young, he's throwing so fast. And then the next pitcher, just to name off my top five, is Green, Allard, and then one, two. I had Mackenzie Gore above Michael Kopech. I've seen that Kopech has had a little bit of control issues. Actually, I have Tristan McKenzie above Mackenzie Gore. So go Mackenzie, last name Mackenzie, first name. Um, but the pitchers I do like are high upside. Like I do like Walker Bueller, who is going to be used interesting, and I think he could pitch in the bullpen for the Dodgers this season if they really need him to.
Yeah, I could see that too.
So where do you want to go from here? Do you want to go Urias, or do you want to talk
I had
about?
him these guys down, but I think this I had him lower than you, and I think that is very similar to the discrepancy we have with Verdugo. I think Luis Urias has a he's got 47 walks and only 41 strikeouts, so his plate approach is crazy good. He just turned 20. He's in Double A. I think he's going to be. And this year, he actually got off to a really good start power wise. Like I think he's got 2 home runs this year, but those first two came within like season 3 or 4 weeks start the season. I got really excited, but so that same problem with Verdugo that I have, where I think it might just be the top of the lineup, and he's going to be batting average and runs, and not give you much more.
Yeah, and I do think there is a concern that he might not stick. At, I think he plays shortstop right now. Thinking
Yeah,
about that, I'm forgetting.
he's playing shortstop right now, but he's a second baseman long term, definitely.
Yeah, but I do think that San Diego's, but like a lot of these rebuilding teams, we'll see where he fits in with the major league team first, and then make moves from there because they'll know that they'll have his bat in the lineup, so they can just find a spot where I think he could be a nice second baseman. And I wouldn't consider him a second base prospect right now because he is still playing shortstop. So, but we'll see how the Padres go from there.
And then the next, we had a gap on Esteban Florial of the Yankees.
Yeah, I I like Florial a lot. I just like every guy that I ranked above him much more. Obviously, if he stays with the Yankees, and I think he could be trade talks if the Yankees want to continue their wild card chase. Um, could I think he could be moved, but I didn't factor that into the rankings. I just I don't know. There's a few Yankees. Like I wasn't a big fan of like Blake Rutherford. I understand why people would like him real life. I just don't know the fantasy. He's not hitting for power right now. I think he'll play. He'll be a better real life player than fantasy player Rutherford. And Florial will be a really nice fantasy player. I just liked a lot of players above him, so that's why there's a discrepancy in our rankings. I think you liked him more than I do.
Yeah, that's fair. And then you had Bobby Bradley pretty high. I
Yeah, I
totally
do like Bobby
understand
Bradley.
why.
Yeah, like I think the guy's got massive power, and he's just the replacement, and he can keep that Cleveland offense going when he gets called up. The guy's just got he's got some impressive power in that bat. Some concerns about swing and miss issues, and I don't think he'll be a great first baseman, so he could be shifted to DH when around. But and I think that power, he'll be one of those guys who just hits for like 30 to 35 homers a year, and will definitely be a nice first baseman when he is major league ready.
Yeah, I guess I get that. Other side of the coin, I think, is play a great defensive first base, which doesn't matter in fantasy, but the swing and the miss, I'm not sure how he slots in to a real life lineup. That said, his strikeouts have gone down this year. I mean, he was at 170 last year over 485 at bats, and this year he's at 74 after 285. So he's striking out a bit less.
And I think last year he won the league MVP because he hit just amount of homers for where he was at. So
Yeah.
see the swing and miss issues coming back for him. I just think that the power tool, that one fantasy tool, that'll be nice because power produces home runs, RBIs, it can produce hits. So he won't be he won't be like a 5 category guy. So a nice power guy to.
Big power's good. Big power's big power.
Yeah, any power's good power at this point. Although a lot of guys are hitting for more power nowadays, so I could see.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere that the average number of home runs like per player is like 23 or something ridiculous like that. That means like an average. If you project somebody to be an average power guy, 50 power, he's a 20 50 home run hitter. Like that's pretty damn good for average.
Yeah, we're on pace to smash the home run total all year, and we're gonna smash the steroid era level. So it's gonna be crazy. 23 homers for the average player is a lot. I think we're gonna see a shift in like next year's draft. I could see a lot of speed guys in like redraft leagues going earlier than expected, like a D Gordon. He does produce a nice average, like Billy Hamilton, and average and on base. So I think we could see like D Gordon, Trey Turner if he bounces back from his injury. I could see those guys going much higher than a lot of people would like to, but I think it's going to be something that people have to do because getting steals at this point is really hard. You have to get lucky and get a guy who's just a steals guy, or you have to get a guy who does a whole bunch of things nowadays.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're going on like 45 minutes here, so let's move into our honorable mentions, and then we'll throw out a couple names that didn't make the article but we like. And I'd start with J.P. Crawford, but to be honest, I think kind of what's going on with JP is kind of self-explanatory at this point. The plate approach is there, but he's just not hitting. You know, if you're taking pitches and creating walks, that's great, but it only really matters if you're able to do damage with the pitches that they give you, and he hasn't been hitting for a long time now. So
yeah, that's my concern with him.
Way off our list.
Yeah, that's my concern with him. I just don't know, especially in the fantasy list. I don't know what he's really gonna do. I don't think he's really viable in anything but the deepest of deep dynasty leagues at this point. Like if you're in like one of those 30-team realistic leagues, he'll have some value for you, I guess, but he doesn't. I don't really think he's that big of a steals guy either. He's decently athletic for shortstop. It's just he doesn't have any tool that I'm like, wow, I have to have this guy on my minor league farm system.
No, and I think coming into the year, he looked a lot like Francisco Lindor was when Lindor was coming up. Lindor didn't have that 25 home run power he has now in the minor leagues. You know, people thought maybe it comes, but it wasn't really there. And I think people were kind of on that same boat with Crawford, but he's just not hitting. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think the steals are going to be there when he's a major league player. So I'm not really all that
And I
excited
don't even
for
see him
Crawford.
batting high in a lineup either. I see him being like one of those guys who's just like a 7-8 hitter, and they're not as valuable especially in the National League where you have the pitcher who's really not most of the time a really good hitter, so he just won't get the runs. Going into this season, I actually drafted him pretty high in the Dynasty League we're in. I think I drafted him in the second round because I saw him sliding, and I was like, I'm going to hope that he develops some power, but it just Aaron, he's really not becoming a viable fantasy player right now. He's going to be a decent real life player for sure, but
Yeah,
I don't even see him being like a middle infield option in shallower leagues or anything. I don't know.
yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he's a top of the order hitter either. I think he's a 7-8 guy that plays very, very, very solid shortstop. And yeah, I mean those 7-8 guys, those they don't have much value. So I don't really like him at all.
Yeah. So you want to
Yeah.
transition? Who do you want to go to next? I mean,
I think
I can talk about any
since
of
we're
these
on,
guys.
since we're on struggling, let's go to Yadier Alvarez.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yadier Alba is someone that you're definitely not really high on at all. Doing
No,
really well this season, and he really hasn't been. I think I was at a game that he started because I live near Colorado's those High A in Lancaster, which is a massive hitters park, and
hmm.
they went through a few pitchers that game, and I think he was one of them. I think he was the starter. He just got shelled. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
I
mean
just
this is. I was listening to a podcast over at Baseball America, and they were, you know, they got some, they do good work at Baseball America, and they've got contacts with scouts, and what scouts said about Yadier Alvarez was not good. Like it was like the dude's got triple digit fastball, but it doesn't move. He can't locate a second
no.
base.
It's just flat.
Yeah,
It's just a flat fastball, and that's the last thing you want right now.
yeah. I mean, if you've got 100 miles an hour, like that's great, but if it gets squared up, it's not really that valuable.
Yeah. If it gets squared up, it's going out of the park. I mean, you can just go back to the World Series. I keep bringing up Aroldis Chapman and some of our group meets that Aroldis Chapman almost lost the Cubs the World Series. If you throw a fastball that hard and someone squares up on it, there's a good chance that they're creating hard contact and that thing can go out of the park at any time.
Yeah, and that's what Alvarez has got going on right now. You know, he's still young. He's very good. Yeah, triple digit fastball is a really really good place to start from pitching perspective. But I've heard his slider he can't locate it at all. We saw in the futures game he threw a couple really good ones. I think he got oh man who I can't remember. He got someone swinging real ugly cut on a slider and it looked good, but he just
Yeah.
doesn't really know where it's going.
Yeah, that's the problem. He's more of a thrower right now than a pitcher, and that's just not something you really want.
Yeah,
I think he'll probably get transitioned to the bullpen, which could revive some of his value. If he's a closer, all he needs to do is just throw an inning of gas, and that could really help him. But he does need to
yeah.
develop that control and command.
I don't think I don't think that I don't think command is going to come. And I think he's a bullpen. The control could come, but I don't know if he's going to be able to really ever command. And I think he's a bullpen arm. So I don't know. We have him on honorable mentions. Do you remember if I had him ranked or if you did? One of
Let me
us
pull
had
that.
him. One of us had him late, and one of us
I
had
think it
him
was
really
probably
early.
me because I know that you have been very critical of him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, that's Yohander Mendez. Let's see. see. This is not. I cannot find him, which sucks. I think I had him pretty. I don't even really see him, so maybe not. Yeah, I don't know. I can't find him. You can go. I mean, if people want to go check it out, they can go to our site, Major League Mayhem, and check out our list, which was published last week, I think. But yeah, he just. I have major bullpen concerns with him, and I think if I'm the one that had him ranked, I had him ranked because he's a bullpen arm, and I think that gas could just lead to some strikeouts because really you just want your closer to go in there and throw gas for trying 2-inning closer instead of someone you want to put out there for a four inning or for not 2 innings, 2 outs, 4-out guy. I don't think he's a 4-out type of guy. I think he's get the last 2 batters out of the game type of guy. If that makes sense.
And, I wanted to ask you because of your rankings, and there were a ton of guys that you had and I didn't, but like someone like John Duplantier, like I was like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. I considered him for my top 100, so it didn't surprise me that John Duplantier or something like that was on your list. One guy that did surprise me, and probably the only name on this article that I didn't really even consider top 100 was Jesus Luzardo. So maybe you can go into what you see in him and.
So what I saw in Jesus Luzardo is he has the pedigree, which I do like. He going into the draft process, he was very highly thought of. He fell because of Tommy John, and I think he can throw. I think he can throw for some gas. I think he's getting back now. He's only pitching like 4-inning stints, but I put him in there because I think he's got the upside to be something special if he's needs the kid gloves on at this point. But I wouldn't be surprised if you just, like next season, you just saw him fly up other people's rankings because I'm really high on him. And he's in our Dynasty League that we're in massive win now mode. And he's one of the few prospects I actually have held on to because I love his upside. I think when he's 100% back and can just get unleashed, I think he will be, but I could definitely see fantasy ace in there for him. He's got the strikeout stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a small sample. He's only pitched
last I checked 8
innings pitched, but he hasn't walked a guy yet. 15-0 strikeout to walk so far.
Yeah, I think that he's a guy definitely worth keeping an eye on, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, so to say, and then just jumping early into his upside because I actually had him above his former farmhand teammate in Giolito because I'm just totally off Giolito at this point. Almost he was 1 spot away from being left off, but I love Jesus Luzardo's massive upside. It's just I wonder if he'll get there, so that's why I thought I'd put him in at 99.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You mentioned drinking the Kool-Aid. That's kind of how I am on Dustin May. I had him on mine, but I expect you to have him on yours. Kind of a Hail Mary. I like May. I think he's gonna be really good. He's got a nice his slider. The Dodgers saw sync. He was a 3rd-round pick, and I think the slot was like $600K, and they paid him $1 million.
So they obviously liked him a lot.
Yeah, interesting enough, they I think they took under slot in the 2nd round. But Mitchell White's having a damn good year too.
Yeah, he is. He does. Yeah.
Luzardo, I'm kind of just, that his fastball's good. He's got 92, 94, but it's got movement. It's got a lot of movement. It's got a great slider. So I'm kind of jumping on the train early and hoping to gain some steam.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping with Luzardo. About our underrated guys because I see you have a list and I didn't get a chance to put my list, but I can talk about some guys. I mean, you have one guy, Alex Fado, who I really like him. I thought it was pretty. I like him, but I thought he was pretty aggressively ranked on Baseball America at 53, ahead of
No,
other.
they shot him way up that list.
Yeah, that was interesting to see. I can see it because they are really big fans of his because they liked him going into this year because he had surgery on both his knees in the off season,
Mm-hmm.
so getting his stuff back by the time he was College World Series MVP. So I can definitely see why they like him. I just think 53 is a lot, especially considering that. I mean, they're a real life list, and we're focusing on fantasy, but
Yeah,
53 is pretty aggressive for someone who
and they did
in the
chat
middle.
about that top 100, and somebody asked about him, but then they did say his uh, his slider has tightened up quite a bit.
Yeah,
I know
I
the
noticed that.
Tigers something, but
I was really enjoying watching him in the College World Series. I wasn't just watching because I'm a pretty big Tigers fan. I was actually enjoying watching him, and I was doing. I guess they have some other guys to be looking forward to next year's draft because Florida has just done a really good job of developing pitchers right now. AJ Puck looks really good right now for the Athletics in their farm system, and they have a few other guys, so they to watch if you want to watch some future MLB players.
I think Helio Ramos was another guy that I wasn't surprised you had him, but I didn't give him heavy consideration.
I think he's just got I think he's got some massive power. He probably had some of the best power in this most recent draft. And the landing spot is weird because I don't think anyone was predicting him to go to San Francisco. The prototypical Giant, if that makes sense. The Giants are known for turning these weird guys into like actually pretty relevant big leaguers. And he's just got massive power that doesn't really mix well with their. If I had to compare the Giants, it's like compare them as like league type team, if that makes sense. They're just kind of stuffing things. And Heliot Ramos, I think, is just going to be a pretty big, massive corner outfield power guy. It's an interesting fit for them, but I liked Heliot Ramos going into the draft a lot.
Do you follow Chris Kuziolik on Twitter?
No, I do not, but I probably should. I need to update who I follow. I just follow a lot of more fantasy focused guys. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's not a professional in any way, but he's a player evaluator who lives out in the West Coast, like the like Southwest area. He I'm looking at his Twitter right now. It says take refuge in the Cal League and Arizona backfields. He hops around the Cal League, the Arizona League a lot, and he's really good. He's an amateur, but he gives good reports, and he loves Helio Ramos. He sees him quite a bit, and he's in love with the guy. So
I would say that I'm higher on him than a lot of other people because I think I like big power guys. I do like the occasion. I like the all around guys, but I think power can carry you throughout the minors because power creates home runs, it creates hits, it creates RBIs. If you're a big power guy, you couldn't suffer an average, but I think that he could develop into a decent average guy. I think he could be like a 270 hitter with probably 30 home runs if everything goes right for him. So that's why I was pretty high on him and actually putting him in my top 100.
yeah, reading right now, he said he had him clocked from first to third on a triple in 7 seconds.
Yeah,
That's like
that's much
pretty.
faster than I was actually expecting to hear.
Yeah, he's got some speed. I think he's a little stocky guy, huh?
Yeah, he's built definitely weird. I see one guy that you said one underrated guy is Brent Rooker, and I know that he went late in the draft because of how old he is, and I actually like that. I like Brent Rooker. He did really well in college, and he did it in the SEC, so that really is a
Well, he
against
did
like junior college.
like insane in college. I guess senior.
Yeah, he did insane. He was in the Triple Crown. He was basically a Triple Crown threat throughout that entire year last year for Mississippi State. So I like him a lot, and he went to a pretty nice spot because he does look to be the first baseman of the future for them. Nice draft. I mean,
First base. Yeah,
And he
so
can
I want
play
to I
left
want to do
field
his
as
stats right
well.
now. So my computer will cooperate, but I want to make sure I get his stats right because his senior year at Mississippi State was bonkers.
Yeah, he was like the leader in home
495
run.
OBP,
Yeah,
810 slugging, so 1300 OPS, home runs,
that's
18 stolen bases. It's just insane.
that that's crazy. And he did get a lot of first basemen in this draft, so he did get overlooked. Like I'm personally pretty high on Evan White. He reminds me of Cody Bellinger. He's got a little less power than Bellinger, but he's got that. He could play center field in a pinch. He could play a really great Gold Glove quality defense first. But Rooker did go a little. He went later than I was expecting. I think it's because he's older than most players in this draft because he was draft eligible last year, I want to say, and turned it down. But I think it's a nice fit for him in Minnesota. He doesn't really seem to be a space prospect that's going to ever block him.
Yeah, I think like you said, he's way older than most people in the draft, so he fell for that reasons. I also read somewhere that he really struggled in Cape Cod League last year, so they used wooden bats. That was kind
Yeah.
of iffy for me. So I think more than most people, his performance in short season, or even if maybe they move him up to A, will be pretty telling more than most people.
Yeah, because right now in 19 games, he has 6 home runs. So he's definitely carrying what he did last year, this past season, because he's got a 288 average, 376 on base percentage. Slugging percentage is 575, so an OPS of .952. He's not. I don't think he's ever going to be as crazy as he was in college. I think that's a little. He's got some tools there and should be nice. He does have 2 steals and did get caught stealing 2 times, so I don't really think that's much in his game. Pretty big, massive power guy. If he can develop and the get in the Twins lineup, if he stays with the Twins.
So I think that's there's Brendan McKay. I know we don't have to elaborate too long on these guys, and then to wrap it up, we'll each throw out a name that we like and a real underrated guy. I know you don't like McKay. I'm assuming it's because he's first
Okay.
base guy.
No, it's not the first base. It's just they're going to pitch him as well. And that just kind of, I was expecting them to just say, you're going to be this, and you can focus every single minute focusing on one thing. But he's going to be juggling both. And in the draft, I thought he was a number 3 starter, really, and that was a ceiling. He's probably one of the best college players in a long time. So he definitely had a great college career. I just don't know really is as a professional. So that's why I don't like him that much. If he focuses on one thing, and I think I'd rather him be a hitter, honestly. I think if he just focused on hitting, he could be a really nice first baseman.
Yeah, all right, that's fair enough. I could see that.
I mean, I can definitely see why people like him. He's an exciting player, and I get people liking the two-way aspect of his game. It's just I don't know if he should really be doing that. He should focus on one thing.
Yeah, that's
Underrated
fair.
guys. I mean, I did
Um,
have Bo Burrows, who I'm a really big fan of, and he pitched
yep.
really well in the
Futures
futures
game.
games. Yeah, 98, which really surprised me.
Yeah. He pitched really well. He looked really good.
Yeah. So we can just name off some guys to finish off. You have Michael Baez, Corbin Burns, Jacob Nix, Jake Gatewood. I do like Jake Gatewood. I think he could be a really nice player.
Yeah,
And
the thing that I like about Jake Gatewood is he had. I had initially read it as LASIK, but I think he just got corrective uh, lenses contacts,
mm-hmm.
and that's a pretty big thing. I believe Wilson Ramos got LASIK last year, improved his vision, and all of a sudden he broke out. And Jake Gatewood did
Yeah.
something along the same line. So I think his breakout's pretty legit. So I think this is something I want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, if you can see the ball, you can hit the ball better. So you're not guessing at that point. So I think we could see him rise up. So Yeah, I had a great time talking to you, Connor.
Yeah, thanks. So this is the first episode of the Bell Curve, and hopefully we can do this again pretty soon.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we're out of here, I guess. Bye, bye, my man.